Welcome to Cody in the Cinema. Today I'm discussing 3 films that I believe would make excellent additions to the Criterion Collection. These are 3 films I like very much that I think meet, really for me, 3 criteria I'm looking for. I do believe they have a significant cultural, historical value, and that's something that's important to me when I'm looking at films that already exist in the collection. I think they're good. They're just quality, well-made. In this case, superbly made films. In all 3 cases, these are really well-made films. And the other thing that I like to think about with this, are these films that might get lost or somebody hasn't heard of, or just are, a breath of life to fans of movies? And I think all 3 of these would fit that bill. So the first of these, the very first one I thought of, I put a poll out. I said, would you all be interested in the community and me, discussing films that I think would be great in the Criterion Collection? The first film that came to mind was a 1986 film. This film's called The Horse Thief. It's hard to get a copy of The Horse Thief. There is a holy grail copy of it that's at least $300 on eBay that I would love to have. I first heard about The Horse Thief from a special that Roger Ebert did with Martin Scorsese. And they were talking about their favorite movies from the 90s. And Scorsese chose a 1986 film, The Horse Thief, because he said it really wasn't popularized until the 90s, and that's when he saw it. So The Horse Thief is a film about a man who is exiled for stealing a horse, just mostly due to this dire poverty that he's in. It's a Tibet film. It's simple and beautiful and stunning for what it is. And as he, as he goes through this story, he just ends up in worse and worse trouble. Roger Ebert, when talking to Scorsese, compared it to Italian neorealism. I think he even brought up The Bicycle Thieves, and I think this is as good as The Bicycle Thieves. It's definitely a very moody movie. There's a lot of religious imagery and so forth in it, and it's one of those movies you just kind of stare at and watch for the visuals in so many ways at times. Scorsese, like I said, called it simple. He actually said simple and specific, and also transcendental. One of the most surprising cinematic experiences I've ever had. I was kind of thinking this might just be something neat pulled out of, just like an underdeveloped film pulled from somewhere that didn't have a whole lot of access to great special effects or whatever. I don't know what I thought at the time, but The Horse Thief is one of my favorite, in my top 100 films. So that was the very first film I thought of. And the second film I thought of is the film that actually won, I think at the Cannes in 2010. This is called Uncle Boonmee, Who Can Recall His Past Lives, from 2010. And of course, the Criterion does already have a film, if I'm not mistaken, Mysterious Object at Noon is in the World Cinema Collection. This story, and like all 3 of these movies, describing the plot is limited in how useful it is to talk about this movie. But there is this man, Boonmee, and he's spending some of his last days with loved ones in the countryside. And there's a ghost that appears to him and takes care of him somewhat. And a character returns in a non-human form during this. You'll see what that's about. There are, there's a scene with a fish that's really memorable that some of you might find quite bizarre. There's a mysterious hilltop cave with reincarnation. It's impossible to describe this film. You simply have to experience it. One of the creatures in here does have those striking red eyes, especially. You'll see how this incorporates, you know what? When I think about this film and the creatures and the mythology of it, I'm reminded of something like Studio Ghibli, even though that's animated. And what I mean is the supernatural isn't necessarily evil. It just sort of exists within the world. Great example of that is My Neighbor Totoro. And this film for me is like Scorsese called the other film transcendent. It isn't that in a way. I mean, parts of it, the way it combines other forms of media and stuff, it's almost like it has an effect like Tarkovsky's Mirror. And this is the sort of beautiful visual film that I would love for the collection. This director also did Cemetery of Splendor, which I really enjoy. So if you've seen that film, You might like this one, although this one, like I said, it's kind of hard to get a copy of. I think the cheapest I found is like $30 for a DVD. It just feels like it would be perfect in the collection. Uncle Boomy, Who Can Recall His Past Lives. And finally, a film that's not always the kind of thing that's up my alley. Because I have, whenever I watch surrealist films, it can, I just don't, I don't know. They don't always click with me as much as I want them to, even though I really enjoy them. But this one I love. So this is called Pastoral to Die in the Country. This is from 1974. Pastoral to Die in the Country. It's parts of it are incredibly realistic, but a lot of it is kind of surrealist in nature. And the idea is that there's a director who's directing a film, and then like we see parts of the film, maybe we see the fantasy. Like I'm not going to, again, this is like kind of an impossible film to describe. And when he's examining his childhood, which I'm loosely framing, describing his childhood, let me just give you an example of how bizarre this is. So there's like this carnival imagery. In one part, there's this big inflatable like clown character that needs inflated to survive, and you end up feeling a great deal of empathy for that character. It can be kind of nightmarish at times. It's creepy and it's beautiful. There is a lot that the film has to say about, how we respect ourselves. Do we want to be true to art? Can we be true to our families, our parents, our maternal figures, our paternal figures? And it also is a great film concerning just the artistic process. And again, like visually incredibly stylized and unique. One of the prettiest films all three of these films are incredibly gorgeous films. And and I guess like I need to admit a bias here. When I think about what films do I want to have in the Criterion Collection, I want them to be super pretty. I probably should have said that at the beginning of the video, but as I'm talking about these, I'm realizing that's like a big motivating factor here as to why I'm recommending them. So, Pastoral to Die in the Country, another film that I really would love to see in the collection. Those are my 3 recommendations, the first 3 that came to mind. I could go through and find others, obviously. If people have any interest in that, I can do another video. There's some other, there's some pet projects that I would like to see that maybe are a little bit on the campier or lower quality side, but these are some of the high quality ones that I really enjoyed. If you like this video and you want to click the like button, that would help grow the channel. I would appreciate it. Consider subscribing if you haven't, because I cover these Criterion related topics quite a bit. We'll see you next time. Cody in the Cinema.